Right. Hello, everyone. This is Tuesday, August 9th. It's the Jupyter IPython weekly dev meeting, and we can quickly run through the agenda. Welcome, everyone. Let's see. Carol is not attending. I think she's been a victim of the Delta mess that has impacted a ton of people, and she's stuck somewhere between Japan and the US. Hopefully, her flight situation will be resolved soon. So next in line, I think, is Thomas. Go for it.
Not a lot to report, I think, but I would like to resurrect the kernel nanny proposal if people who are interested could have a look at that.
Yeah, since we haven't kind of discussed it in a little while. I mean, obviously the link is on the hackpad, but do you want to give the sort of 1-minute elevator pitch for the proposal so that people have it in their mind and hopefully people can comment and pitch in the PR itself, but yeah, for the record?
Sure. So the idea is that essentially we ensure that there is always a controlling process running on the same computer as a kernel, so that there is always something that can interrupt a kernel, so it can send it signals. That's something that you can only do with the process on the same computer. Yeah. And also we will give kernels a way to opt into standard stream, stood out and stood error output capturing at the operating system level. Mm-hmm. That you can have. So at the moment in Python, if you use C types to call the C printf function, or if you call a C extension that uses C level printing, at the moment we don't capture that output, and it ends up in the terminal.
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of Fortran code out there that does library level writes in Fortran, and that stuff is obviously all blind. I mean, it's all lost to us because it's coming from the low level Fortran libraries, and it's actually not uncommon. I think even SciPy has bits and pieces of that pops off every now and then.
Yeah,
it's common in scientific codes.
What's that, Min?
I think Min said common in scientific codes.
Yeah. Where there's a bunch of C++ with a bunch of print statements because you're never sure if it's actually doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah. So, quick question, Thomas. Do you have any new reason for kind of resurrecting it, or is just one of those? This was sort of lingering, and we should not drop it, or has anything new kind of made you think, oh, we really should do this, just to help us understand?
Not specifically at the moment. Last month, so I mentioned I'm doing a bit of consulting work with a financial firm in London, and the stuff they're doing would be they're putting kernels in Docker containers, and I think it would be advantageous for that if we had a nanny that live inside the container.
Yeah, I was actually thinking precisely in that direction, that the more we move towards lots of people kind of using Docker as the way to encapsulate their kernels, that might kind of tilt the scales in favor of needing this. That's exactly where my head was going. But Min, do you have any quick thoughts on this before we move on? I mean, obviously the full description, but it's useful to get context.
I think a lot of the complexity, because initially the kernel proposal was just for the remote signaling stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we added also the output capturing stuff,
mm-hmm.
which is proving to be both more technically complicated because it makes a lot of things like synchronizing, when is this output complete, much more complicated than it used to be. It's of course opt-in, which is important, but I'm wondering if maybe doing it in 2 stages, if doing just the process and with the signaling, so we can get rid of the heartbeat stuff,
mm-hmm.
and then doing the output capturing as a separate proposal might make it a little bit easier to make progress.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you think about that, Thomas?
That's an option if people want it. I feel like we hashed out I feel like we hashed out something for both parts that we were fairly happy with, and then it kind of got bogged down in extended and meandering discussions. So if we think that splitting it up would make it easier to move it forwards, then that's fine, and I think it could be split up relatively easily. But I think we have something that we could move forward with for both parts as one thing. The main question that I think is still up in the air is whether it's one nanny per kernel or one nanny per system, and then you communicate with the nanny to start kernels.
Yeah, and the nanny becomes the manager for all kernels on that node, or on that, system is maybe a good word, because it could be
environment.
Docker containers in a node or whatever, yeah. Okay, well, those are probably good boundaries, kind of for context for everyone to think about, and before we start diving into the weeds, the rest of the discussion can probably happen on the PR itself, unless anybody has any other kind of high-level bit that is useful for everyone.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Thomas. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up group-wide? Okay, so we'll skip Grant and Stephen because they're both not present. They left their notes on the hackpad, so we can follow up from there. So Darian, I think you're the next present person from the notes. Go for it. I mean, if there's anything not on the notes that you'd like to discuss,
even though it's on the notes,
thing that you want to bring up, go ahead.
Yeah, even though it's on the notes, it bears repeating. So porting everything in Jupyter Lab over to the Phosphor Mono repo is a very large change. Like, it was, close to 150 commits, and there's a lot that's different in the code, but we're hoping virtually nothing is different in the actual application. I've seen one difference where the inspector appears to have the wrong color and something's off, so I'm going to check that out and figure out what's going on. But basically, please be on the lookout for any inconsistencies, because this was such a big change that even though all our tests passed and everything, there's still probably something we didn't see.
Yeah. But by the way, congratulations. I'm happy with those consolidation changes. I think they will help in the long run. So congrats, even if there's a little bit of sharp edges to file in the next few days. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really relieved it's done, because there are people now in the community submitting substantial PRs, not just little things. And that's, first off, that's amazing. That's really great. But secondly, we didn't want something like this to cause merge conflicts. And one person seems to have been affected, and we're talking with him in particular to make sure it's smooth. But I'm glad it's not going to affect too many other people. Now they have the actual canonical base that they're going to build on top of.
Cool. Yeah, and the faster you close that window, the better in that regard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it for me.
Great. Okay, I just pulled, and I'll report on the repo if I spot anything.
Thanks. Cool.
I'm actually curious, Darian, how did the build time, are the build times now reduced, given that we don't have to dedupe?
Yeah, actually, the build feels faster, and because I was doing so many builds in a row and I had watch running, I actually really noticed that my save to refresh cycle was substantially shorter, it takes a lot of the tedium out of it. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I noticed it too, Chris. Even though I'm not running build watch because I'm doing less frequent updates, but I did notice it on the pulls that the build went faster. My build screens took a long time before. So I think I'm next. The only thing worthy of mentioning, in case anyone is going to be in San Francisco at KDD, the data mining conference this weekend, I'll be speaking at a workshop there called BPDM, Broadening Participation in Data Mining. So if anyone is there, which means I'm not going to make it to PyData because they conflict with each other. But I'll be in the city at the non-PyData data conference speaking this weekend. So if anybody would like to catch up, I'd be happy to see you.
That's so Bay Area, two data conferences clashing with each other.
Hey, let's just, yeah, I know. Stereotypes galore. Min, anything that you want to flag for the team?
Mainly, I have a talk at EuroSciPy kind of about what's new and what's upcoming in Jupyter. So if people want to send me things that I should mention, obviously I'll talk about Jupyter Lab and the dashboard stuff and other cool stuff on the service. But if there's anything people want to make sure that I touch, let me know. Other than that, almost every package we have is about ready for release.
Maybe some of the recent kernel gateway work as well. So it might be a good idea to touch bases with Gino on beyond dashboards and the kernel gateway if there's anything else coming from their side. As well, I see Gino's on the call, so maybe you can.
Yeah, there's a collection of kernel gateway demos. There's a repo for that. You can probably pick from there. What makes sense. Yeah, I think one that's good to highlight is exposing notebooks as microservices. That's always seems to be a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, cool.
And Min, one thing that might be a cool quick highlight of that is both because it's a highlight of the usage of the dashboards and because it's interesting data about our community and kind of knowledge of our community would be the survey, the IBM survey. It serves kind of, you kill two birds with one stone with that. It's both the technology and the information about the project and the community.
And the only other thing is approximately every project we have is due for release of some sort now or a while ago. So, and a lot of them are Matthias has been working on and Thomas, I think on IPython, which is just about ready. I still have to figure out one of those Mac issues, but a lot of them are close to shipping. So if anybody can help iron those out.
Yeah, Thomas, I think that's a good idea to kind of organize names for release manager for a specific project, which is not Min 1, Min 2, and all of Min's clones. So yeah, we should actually work on that in the next few days, and rotate those hats. I think release manager is one of the hats which is most important to rotate periodically to avoid the buildup of sort of implicit knowledge which happens to be in somebody's head and is not captured anywhere visible. And rotating that between people is the best way to avoid that from happening.
Yeah, fortunately, with our shrinking packages, releasing the vast majority of them has gotten extremely simple, much simpler than releasing IPython used to be.
Okay.
Which is nice.
But if it's easy, all the more reason to make it a little rotating.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like everybody can help for an hour doing this. And I'm happy to be included in that list, by the way.
Yeah, sure. Like I made the IPyKernel release yesterday and it took like 5 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Including the CondaForge update and everything.
Yeah, Thomas, do you want to mention your note? Flip back into the talking stream about EuroSciPy? You both are going to be there.
Yes, so just Min mentioning that he's doing a talk reminds me that I'm also doing a talk about notebooks and their position in academic publishing. So yes, it's less of a call for input, though obviously if you have anything that you think is relevant to that, then and you don't think I've already got it, then please do feel free to let me know about it.
And by the way, speaking of that, I want to remind both of you and myself, because I'm not sure that I gave Anna this information, that Anna has the calendar of basically any and all worldwide activities where we are doing something, talks, presentations, workshops, etc. And so let's make sure to make Anna aware of that information so that it's in the calendar. And I think a number of people actually have direct access to the Google Calendar, but if not, Anna has a little form to make it very quick to kind of ingest that data. It's useful both for highlighting our stuff to the community, and it's also extremely important when I have to write grant reports. Having one source of information of this is everything that we've been doing as a team is extremely valuable, rather than scrambling at the last minute like we've done in the past, where I'm sending emails to people, tell me everything you've done in the last year. So please take care of that, and me included. That please goes to me too. I need to double check whether I've done it already.
Yeah, Fernando, if this calendar thing is for the kind of stuff that's useful for the grant reports, Should I add things like, the invited workshop kinds of stuff that aren't necessarily that community interesting, but would probably be useful for you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so.
I'll add a few activated ones of those.
Yeah, and these are workshops and seminars where the team is presenting, and I mean, they may not, some of them not be open to the wide public, some of them may be at an institution, but they're still, I mean, this is not your private consulting, right? These are still activities that to some extent are open to some specific subcommunity. And so in that regard, they are part of what we do as a project, right? Even if they're not just completely public lectures or at a big conference.
So I think I'm next.
Do you have anything for the team?
So I've been working with Mike on NBConvert, trying to explain NBConvert to Mike, make me realize that there is a lot of code that shouldn't work or does not make sense. You can see that in one of the last PR. And I'd like him to go through the release process. So if we can postpone a bit NBConvert and have him go through that, so that it's something that is still really rare and takes some time for a new contributor to go through. We've been working with Jamie and Stuart from Biz at making a map for all the contributors of Jupyter that we will try to push on the website at some point, make a PR. It's nice, you can zoom in and you get like the aggregate number of people per continent, then per country, then per state, and per town. And it's nice to see that we have contributors all around the world. And I'm preparing for PyDay, and that's like in 2 weeks. If you still haven't got your ticket to come to PyDay, come to see us at PyDay.
So that's, Thomas, for you, that's the weekend after the other Python, which is going to have a lot of data science conference in the city. So you can keep cranking up your jokes about the Bay Area.
Hey guys, so a quick, I guess a proposal. I was fishing for the mute button about the previous conversation on all these talks that you guys are giving. Pete and I were trying to find the other day, because we're going to be giving a talk at PyData in Carolinas, and we're trying to figure out where do we put like example notebooks and like prep material for a tutorial. Like where do we stash that in GitHub? And we thought there might have been like a Jupyter related org that was just for materials for talks, and I don't know if that exists, but if it does, it would be nice to maybe collect all our different talks into one place.
That's a good idea. So Gino, just for reference, up until now, the only thing we've really had, and we've sort of reused and abused that repo over and over, is the IPython in-depth tutorial, which we started years ago. And it's an old repo that has evolved and grown and accreted a ton of material in it. And so it might not be a bad idea to make either a few repos or maybe an org, given that GitHub doesn't have any kind of hierarchical layering. We seem to have just caved in and accepted the notion that we just make various orgs with the name Jupyter whatever. And so a Jupyter teaching materials org where related repos can be aggregated, that's not a bad idea. Very quick kind of, rather than doing voting, at least does anybody think it's a terrible idea? Or would anybody oppose that?
Depends how big it is. I'm wondering if just a single repo where you put like this conference name as a folder and the material there wouldn't be enough.
Well, the problem is there's going to be, if it's
generally, I prefer one repo per talk is how I would prefer to do it.
And if it's one repo and we have stuff on IPython and stuff on Jupyter Lab and stuff on Jupyter Hub and stuff on NBConvert and Jess has something on NBGrader, I think we have enough differences in scope and material that, I mean, even the IPython one right now is already gigantic. And that one, the old IPython in-depth tutorial. So I like the idea of an org, and we can make it a single org for everything under our umbrella, IPython or Jupyter.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of one repo per talk, because like we were thinking about maybe enabling our talk to be used in Binder, right? And it'll have its own Docker file and things like that. And
one repo could contain related material if it's something like a 3-hour tutorial or things like that. It doesn't have to be completely sliced too thinly, but it does give us the option of saying if this is a fairly self-contained talk, we put it in its own repo. Okay, I like the idea. I think we can move forward with that.
Jupyter teaching materials.
Yeah, let's bike shed on the name later, but yeah, that's a good idea. Why don't you just make an issue for it? We can give people a quick chance to pitch in just on an issue.
I'll make it on Jupyter.
Yeah, just make it an issue and post a note on the hackpad to the issue, and then we can do it quickly. Great idea, Gino. Yeah, thank you. Damian, I believe you're next, unless anyone else wants to say anything on this. Move forward. Not, Damian. Is there anything that you want to bring up to the team, Damian? Are you with us?
Yeah, essentially, I will be probably releasing a beta one from Rise today. So I will probably send an email to the mailing list. And I know several people use Rise from Master since 6 months ago, something like that. And I did some changes and some fixes and provided some packages so people can actually install things in the new or with the new installation in NB extension installation mechanism. So one thing is that, and the other thing is related with the NB conda kernels issue that some people installing Anaconda Rise the next past weeks. We have a package that fixes those issues, and with Nick we had been answering to all those issues in all different places. So I guess people will not talk about that again, or will not raise any more issues because the fix seems to work okay, at least for the use case. There is some related and interesting discussion in the NB kernel repo to make that something that eventually could be inside the Jupyter core. So we will probably write a proposal or something like that to incubate that thing. But essentially, just some news on that front.
Cool. Thanks, Damian. Gino and Jason, you guys seem to have unless there's anything else that you want to bring up that's not on the notes. And is there anybody else who's on the call who wants to bring something to the attention of the group that they might not have put on HackPad?
I didn't mention that I was thinking of joining the Friday Superlab meeting with Vida, our guy working on the NVDIME stuff. Does that make sense? That seems like a good idea. Yeah.
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yes, please come.
Okay. We'll be here on Friday.
Okay.
And I didn't throw it into the notes, but Jupyter Atlanta is go, provided we have Carol. We'll work if we don't have Carol. We'll do what we can. But very excited there. We got about 50 people signed up, which would be nice, intimate kind of thing. We've got 3 tracks of up and running and owning Jupyter Hub, all that stuff. Notebooks for science and publishing, and then just get in there and hack on it. And so we're going to have Steve Sylvester, and we're really stoked about that. So yeah, thanks for all the support. We got a lot of good people in, and I can't imagine they all came in organically. So we really appreciate all the help you guys gave us on that.
Great. Well, that's the idea with Jupyter Days, that they should be very sort of community-driven, locally grown, organic, certified, etc. all the good stuff, sort of for people to have a lower travel burden, for the people from the local community to have a chance to get together and meet and work together without creating kind of a lot of large-scale logistics. And please help Carol rest a little bit. It sounds like if she makes it to Atlanta, thanks to Delta, she's going to be knackered because it's going to have a brutal trip.
Yeah, and we've already gotten one person that says, I want to run Jupyter Day London. And we're like, whoa, hold your horses. Let's run Atlanta, and then we'll talk about it. But that's great that someone's now interested in the first one offshore, and that's great.
No, it's wonderful. And the more we learn, the more we can streamline this so that the Jupyter Day events are fairly lightweight, as I said, kind of informal and decentralized community events where we provide some basic guidelines in terms of behavior and kind of inclusiveness and the respect of the principles of the project, but otherwise that they're activities that are really developed by the local community. So yeah, thanks so much for. I know it's been a lot of work on your side, so thank you, and everyone who's helped. What's that mean?
Expressed interest in doing Jupyter Days Zurich in the spring, but that kind of passed out. But the person doing that will be at Euro Sci-Fi in a couple of weeks, so we might revive that idea for the fall or something.
Yeah, Thomas and you can talk to them and let us know what the ideas and the plans are. Anna is doing the bulk of the coordinating on those events, and so when you have a little bit more info, we can talk with Anna about that.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Anyone else have anything that they want to bring up for the group? Going once, going twice. All right, so I'll stop the recording. Recording has